There are a few fundamental problems baked into horror role-playing. For example, monsters have stat blocks. Game mechanics provide structure, and structure kills fear. Then there's death. In horror fiction, characters die all the time. But at a game table, that's not fun. You can't just tell a player, well, you're dead, sit quietly for the next 2 hours. I'm nearly finished with my video discussing those and many more inherent problems at a game table, and I will offer potential solutions you may use. One example is using narrative twists to create unpredictability, keeping the fear alive, and another is employing player-driven secrets to enhance suspense. And of course, I already have my Horror 101 video. But for now, I can condense it all down to this. Focus on breaking certainty as your main design principle. Think about that phrase, and you're ready to elevate your horror tabletop gaming. But right now, I'm going to show you Dread, a game that solved the biggest problems with horror role-playing. And I'm giving you a free scenario I created specifically for this amazing game called The Within. And its core, The Within, isn't about monsters or madness, it's about perception. The players are inside a collapsing idea of reality, and your job as game master, called the host in Dread, is to make them feel that collapse.
Dread, the most balanced horror game ever made.
Rules. So how does Dread actually work? Well, first, forget the dice. There are none. The entire game runs on a simple mechanic, the Tower of Dread. To play Dread, you'll need a Jenga tower, which for copyright reasons is called the Tower of Dread. It's the heart of the system. Every time your character takes a risk, you pull a block, or 2, or 3, or more, depending on how great that risk might be. If the tower remains standing, you succeed. If it falls, your character is gone from the story, usually in a spectacularly awful way. The beauty of it is that you can feel the tension growing. The more unstable the tower becomes, the more nervous everyone gets. It's a physical manifestation of suspense. You can refuse to pull, but that means your character fails, freezes up, or backs down. Sometimes you can even choose to knock the tower over on purpose for a heroic sacrifice. After the tower falls, the story pauses. Everyone takes a breath. The player whose character just exited helps rebuild the tower carefully, piece by piece, and that act becomes symbolic. You're resetting the tension, rebuilding the dread, preparing for the next collapse. But after a character dies, the tower is not the same. For every character that has perished during the course of the game, it is rebuilt with 3 fewer blocks. How exactly you remove them is up to the host. But my favorite method is to build the tower, then remove 1 from the top, 1 from the middle, and 1 from the bottom. You do that for every character that has died. The tower begins already unstable and near collapse. Then, once the tower is ready, the story continues, picking back up where it left off. But just like a good suspenseful horror film, everything feels more fragile and tense. Players know the tower will fall again. They just don't know when or who it will take next. And that's the game mechanics. That's the core rule set. Every scene, every choice, every heartbeat of tension radiates from that tower. Character creation is actually simple, but it's deceptively deep. Instead of stats, each player answers a short questionnaire. Things like, what are you most afraid of? What secrets would you never share? Who or what would you sacrifice your life for? These answers are your character sheet. They tell the host exactly who you are and what might push that character over the edge. There are no hit points, no armor class, just your character's fears, flaws, and the blocks. Those blocks are all that stands between survival and disaster. The game master is called the host. They can now use those answers to shape the story. Whenever your character acts under stress, climbing a crumbling ladder, hiding from something in the dark, or trying to convince a friend not to open the wrong door, that's when you pull. The more the tower leans, the higher the stakes feel. Eventually, it will fall. And when it does, that's the climax and end for the character in question. Typically, the host narrates how a character meets their fate, maybe crushed under debris, dragged away by the monster, or simply never found. If a character is comfortable, I allow them to take the spotlight and describe the whole scene. It's their character. Let it be the kind of death the player wants to give it, with the host course correcting if it isn't consistent with the scenario. The whole system is simple enough to teach in minutes. It's created for one-shots, a single evening of laughter, gasps, and that delicious nervous silence when someone's hand starts to shake. And so what if your character dies? You're not talking about an investment of weeks, months, or years. And dead characters don't mean bored players. This really is a game of social interaction, because the only real concentration required is at the moment of pulling blocks. You can still enjoy the fun, the tension, and laughs as your friends now face certain oblivion. In Dread, dying is part of the fun. It's also one of the best gateways into tabletop role-playing. If you can pull a block from a tower, you can play Dread. Dread's rules are so simple, they invite experimentation. The entire system runs on tension, so once you understand that, you can remix it in all kinds of creative ways. Over the years, players have come up with some brilliant rule variants. One variant uses a tarot deck alongside the tower. Whenever someone has to pull a block, the GM draws a card. Face-up cards mean a normal pull. Face-down cards mean double. It's random, it's mystical, and it adds this eerie sense of fate deciding who lives and who dies. Major Arcana cards can even bend the rules, like the Magician letting someone automatically succeed, or Death marking a player for doom. It's basically cosmic horror meets card reading. One variant is called Secret Death. Think of this as hidden doom rather than instant death. Before the game starts, the host pulls one card for each player plus one extra. One of those cards is the Death card. In a normal card deck, it's the Joker. In a tarot deck, it's the Death Arcana. The GM shuffles them and deals one face down to each player. Everyone keeps theirs secret. During play, the tower works exactly as normal. People pull blocks whenever they take risks. When the tower finally falls, instead of killing the person who knocked it over, everyone flips their secret card. Whoever reveals the Death card is marked for death. The key twist is that nobody knows who's doomed until it happens. This keeps tension alive even for cautious players, because the danger isn't just in the tower, it's sitting quietly in someone's hand. Using this variant, if a player intentionally topples the tower for a heroic sacrifice, the Death card is ignored. Their choice overrides fate. There's even a cooperative group mode where the goal isn't just survival, it's redemption. The whole table shares a final die roll at the end to see if anyone makes it out alive. Dread isn't a rigid system. It's an engine of storytelling. Once you understand how tension works, you can shape it to fit any tone or genre you want. Want something occult? Use the tarot variant. Want suspicion and betrayal? Go Secret Death. Want doomed heroism? Try cooperative mode. Whatever flavor of fear you like, Dread has a variant that amplifies it. And this is the best game for old school theater of the mind. One of the most underrated things about Dread is that it teaches theater of the mind better than any other game. There are no maps, no minis, no tokens, just your imagination and that tower. Everything else happens in your head, and somehow it feels more real because of it. This is where Dread becomes more than a horror game. It's a training ground for every game master. It teaches you how to build tension with words, how to paint scenes with description, and how to make silence work for you. It's not about jump scares or stat blocks. It's about presence and storytelling. If you can run Dread, you can run anything. The same skills you learn here, narrative pacing, emotional timing, sensory detail, carry over into every other role-playing game. The tower may come down, but what you take from it stays with you. And this game teaches theater of the mind like no other. For those who say they love role-playing games, but they don't enjoy theater of the mind, well, that's like saying you love pizza, you just don't like the sauce. Theater of the mind is the game. Every miniature, every map, even every die roll, those are just crutches and excuses for weak adventure design, and I love minis. They can elevate imagination, or they can damage it. In horror especially, props create certainty, and certainty is the death of fear. Once the players can measure the room, the distance, the monster, or the odds, their imagination goes silent. Fear lives in uncertainty. Theater of the mind tears down that safety net and replaces control with tension, precision with ambiguity. The best game masters don't just describe what players see, they make the players see it too. That's where the real horror begins, inside the player's mind, not on the battle map. And Dread doesn't force participants into character tropes, unless you want that. There's another indie horror game literally called The Final Girl, published in 2011. That one assigns explicit horror movie archetypes: the cheerleader, the cop, the skeptic, etc., and then kills them off one by one. It's a satire of slasher films. Dread, on the other hand, is more flexible and psychological. It's less everyone plays a trope and more everyone plays someone with emotional depth who might fit an archetype. If you do want to lean into the lighter side of things, The Final Girl role-playing game might be the game for you. It's fast, tongue-in-cheek, where you gleefully play through familiar horror tropes on purpose. It's self-aware, campy, and played for the ridiculousness of it all. Now let me share some final thoughts. Fear, not trauma. The philosophy of the tower. A lot of people misunderstand horror and role-playing games. You'll hear new or inexperienced game masters say things like, you have to psychologically damage your players to make horror work. And that's not horror, that's harm. Horror should evoke fear, not trauma. It should make you feel the danger, not live it. The difference is subtle but vital. Fear heightens empathy. Trauma kills it. The Tower of Dread is the perfect teacher. It externalizes tension. The fear doesn't live in the player's minds, it lives in the room, in that trembling stack of wood. The threat is physical but safe. It creates adrenaline, not anguish. That's why this game is the best for one-shot horror. It teaches pacing, silence, anticipation, without ever hurting anyone. Even a beginner GM can run Dread and immediately understand what real suspense feels like. The tower becomes the heartbeat of the story and everyone can hear it. And for anyone who says game mastering isn't storytelling, well, yes, it absolutely is. You're just not there to tell your players your story, but you are responsible for knowing how stories work. A GM is the camera lens, the eyes, the ears through which players experience the world. If you can't describe, pace, or build emotion, the story is dead before it even begins. Dread shows you this truth. It is free form, improvisation, unrestrained creativity, and improvisation that doesn't feel like work. The free PDF adventure I've created for you, specifically for Dread, is down below, but I'll be releasing a version for Call of Cthulhu as well. Also, be sure you've watched my Horror 101 video so you're prepared for my follow-up videos, the Horror Masterclass and How to Conquer Cosmic Horror. Lastly, this isn't a paid advertisement. I get no compensation for telling you about this game, nor for my free adventure, and all the work I put into it is just for you. I just want to give you the tools you need to be the best game master you can be. Super thanks are always welcome, but just being here and watching, liking the video means the world to me. And of course, your subscription. All of that tells YouTube my videos have value. I'd love for you to share your own experiences with Dread or any questions you have in the comments. Your thoughts and stories will help us build a vibrant, engaging community together. I'm your host and friend Aten here at We Love TTRPGs, and thanks for watching.